Good day and welcome to the Dilip Buildcon Limited Q2 FY22 results conference call hosted by Axis Capital Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Jiten Rushi from Axis Capital Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Faizan. Good evening. On behalf of Axis Capital, I would like to welcome everyone for the Q2 FY21 conference call of Dilip Buildcon. From the management, we have with us today Mr. Devendra Jain, Executive Director and CEO, Mr. Rohan Suryavanshi, Head of Strategy and Planning, Mr. Radheshyam Garg, CFO, Mr. Rahul Nandania, GM Finance, Mr. Devendra Goyal, GM Accounts, and Investor Relations team from Accenture. We thank the management for giving us this opportunity. We shall begin with opening remarks from the management, followed by Q&A session. I would like to hand over the call to Mr. Rahul Nandania for his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jiten. First of all, very good evening to all, and thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have been doing good and well and staying safe in these tough and extraordinary times. First of all, I, along with the entire DBL family, would like to welcome all our investors and partners to this conference call for the quarter ending 30th September 2021. It is my great pleasure and honor to be able to host this call and update all our partners of the important updates for this quarter and our plans for the year going forward. Before I start, let me provide an important update. We have re-uploaded the consolidated financials wherein there was a linking error in the erstwhile file with respect to intercompany eliminations. That has been rectified in the revenue from operations and cost of materials consumed and operating expenses amounting to 636.56 crores, which has a compensating impact. Hence, there has not been any change in the profit and loss for the period which was reported in the erstwhile financials. The same has also been rectified in the presentation. So we would request you to refer to the updated version of both consolidated results as well as the investor presentation. So now let me take you through the business. Since June, India has a steady drop in the COVID-19 cases and a tremendous increase in the immunization coverage. India has finally reached the milestone of 100 crore vaccine doses administered. With the relaxation of movement limitations, more exports, favorable financial and market circumstances, and increased government capital spending, economic activity is steadily improving. Consumer and business confidence for the future is improving as well. Strong agriculture sector performance, a pickup in manufacturing activity, and now even a recovery in contact-intensive services all point to future development. Regarding the infrastructure sector update, so as we all know, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Independence Day has launched PM Gati Shakti Master Plan for INR 100 lakh crore projects for building holistic infrastructure in India. The projects plans to add around 1 lakh kilometer road network to expand the national highways network in the country to around 2 lakh kilometers by the next 4 years. So the key benefits of Gati Shakti projects are as in that the plan will aid in mapping of the current and planned connection initiatives. In addition, there will be a great deal of transparency about how the country's many regions and industrial centers are connected, particularly in terms of last mile connection. Make in India will benefit tremendously from the comprehensive and integrated transportation connectivity plan that integrates various forms of transportation. It will assist India in becoming the world's business capital. Then moving to the construction activities during the quarter. So construction activities have fallen in the first half of the current fiscal to around 21 kilometers per day compared to 22 kilometers per day in the same period last year, and the peak of 25.7 kilometers per day in the same period in 2019. MoRTH has constructed around 3824 kilometers of national highways in the first half of FY22 as compared to 3950 kilometers in the corresponding period last year. Protracted rain in various parts of the country led to pressure on execution in the second quarter, followed by the second wave of COVID-19. MoRTH awarded around 4,609 kilometers during this period as compared to 5,052 kilometers in the previous year. NHAI is also expected to be aggressive in the awarding activities for the rest of the year to meet its initial target of 5,000 kilometers. Then I would also like to cover upon the recent updates about the company. So I am very delighted and glad to announce that the company has received a favorable judgment from Supreme Court of India, with its judgment dated 21st of September. So that has confirmed the appointment of Dilip Buildcon Limited in the consortium with VPR Mining and Infrastructure Private Limited as the mine developer and operator by PSPCL, that is Punjab State Power Corporation Limited, at Pachwara Coal Block Mine. So the total contract value for the tender is around 32,000 crores, which is exclusive of taxes, to be receivable over the period of 55 years of the contract. Then there was a incident at one of our project sites. So with that incident, NHAI has now completed its investigation, and there was a temporary restriction put upon the company for bidding the fresh NHAI projects. So that restriction has now been removed from October 12, 2021. Also, NHAI required the company to deposit a financial penalty of 3 crores. So that has also been deposited within the stipulated time by NHAI. So therefore, now the company is eligible to participate into the fresh bids since October 12, 2021. Further, we have received appointed dates for 3 of our projects during the quarter, since the last quarter. So one is 2 projects are Bangalore-Malur and Malur-Bangarpet. Those are on Bangalore-Chennai Expressway. And the third project is Dhrol-Bhadra Highways Private Limited, which is in the state of Gujarat. So 3 projects have commenced during the quarter. And apart from this, one HAM project, which the company had won in early in the month of March. So for that project also, LOA has been issued by NHAI. That is also on Bangalore-Chennai Expressway. So the stretch is Bangaru-Palam-Gudivada, having order worth of 1,060 crores. And since the last quarter, we have also received financial closure for 4 HAM SPVs, namely Bangalore-Malur, Malur-Bangarpet, Dhrol-Bhadra Highways, and Puducherry-Pondiyakuppam in the state of Tamil Nadu. Apart from these, only 3 projects are there, for which the financial closure confirmation is awaited from NHAI. So 2 of them we have already received the final sanction, and the final one, for which the LOA has just been received, the concession is yet to be signed. So we are very much hopeful that we will be completing all the financial closures within the scheduled time. Apart from this, we have also completed 2 of our projects which were awarded in 2018. So that is Sangli-Solapur Package 2. The stretch is from Borgaon to Vatambre. So that project has been completed. And the other project is in the state of Jharkhand, that is Gorakhpur to Khatkunda. So it is part of NH2. So that project has also been completed. So now let us move to the financial performance of the company during the quarter. So our revenues have increased by 12% during quarter 2 on a YOY basis. EBITDA have decreased by 26% during Q2 FY22. So the primary reason for drop in EBITDA is that, as we all know, that as a part of the business strategy of the company, where the company has been deploying its own manpower and equipment, the company used to complete its projects before the scheduled completion dates. So like if a project is of 24 months, we used to complete the projects within the time frame of 18 to 20 months. But unfortunately, because of the 2 waves of COVID and the COVID being followed by the monsoon season, so that has elongated the construction period for all our projects. And despite there has been an extension of time for this by NHAI for 6 months invariably in all the projects. So effectively our construction period has increased from 18 to 20 months to 27 to 30 months. So this increase in the construction period has impacted the profitability of the company, because the company had to incur more fixed costs while the revenue remained constant. So that is the reason there is a impact on the EBITDA margins of the company. Apart from this, as all of us know, like the entire country is struggling with the steep hike in the material prices. So all the key material prices like cement, bitumen, diesel, steel. So there has been a steep hike. Almost it has gone up in some of the items. The price increase is more than 100%, like bitumen and all. And otherwise, in diesel and steel also there is a steep hike of around 50 to 60% price hike has taken place. So this has again impacted the profitability and the margins of the company, because the projects which are getting completed during this particular phase were initiated somewhere in 2018-19, and those were towards the completion. So while these projects were getting executed, so definitely the realization is as per the old prices, whereas your cost is as per the current prices. So that has been one of the reasons which has again impacted the EBITDA margins. Then the company, as we all know, company is also doing coal mining. So we have coal mining business which contributes around 10%, 10 to 15% of our overall revenue. So in coal business also, like approximately 45 to 50% impact is because of the diesel prices, because there is no raw material assets, but the primary raw material is the diesel, which is required to run the equipment. So there, because of the hike in the diesel prices, again the margins have been impacted in the mining business. And other critical factor has been like two large size projects which were like in the bank of river Ganga, that is Narenpur Purnia and Bhadbud projects, and also one Sahibganj project. So these projects which are nearing the Bhadbud project is near Narmada River and other two are near Ganga River. So these projects could not take off during this second wave of COVID followed by the monsoon period. So effectively we lost critical 6 months for these projects, because of which the revenue could not offtake in these projects, and that has again impacted the recovery of the fixed overheads for the company. So these were the primary reasons. So that was an important update which I wanted to provide on the EBITDA margins. Then consequent to the drop in EBITDA margins, so the profit of the company has also declined. Now let me take you through some of the important items of the balance sheet of the company. Expenditure on fixed assets is around 29 crores, which has been incurred in quarter 2 of FY22. Loans, there has been a decrease in loans given by the company, so mainly on account of loans given to the SPVs created for the HAM projects. Net debt to equity ratio has decreased to 0.73 in Q2 FY22, vis-a-vis 0.76 which existed in Q1 FY22. Working capital days is at par at around 127 days as of 30th September 21, vis-a-vis 126 days which was as of 30th June 2021. So these were the important updates about the balance sheet numbers. Apart from this, on the consolidated financials also, we would just like to update, like during the quarter, because as we all know that we had divested a portfolio of 24 assets to the Serem Group. So out of those 24 assets, 8 subsidiaries have been hived off. The remaining 8 subsidiaries which were yet to be hived off, those have been hived off in Q2 FY22. And same is not consolidated during the half year ended 30th September 2021. And these were, however, getting consolidated till the previous quarter, that is 30th June 2021, as per the Ind AS 110. That is, deals with the consolidated financial statements. Its impact on the consolidated profit and loss and the consolidated balance sheet has been as follows. Our consolidated borrowings have reduced by around 3,340 crores. And accumulated profit till 31st March 21 for the said 8 subsidiaries which were considered earlier are reversed in Q2 FY22 and H1 FY22 because of the said stake sale. And this has been shown as exceptional losses in the consolidated profit and loss account amounting to 185 crores during quarter 2 FY22. The losses are purely non-cash in nature, because those were with respect to the SPVs getting consolidated pertaining, which were for which the stake sale had taken place to Serem Group. The profits for the 8 subsidiaries for Q1 was around 169 crores, which was consolidated in the financials of Q1 FY22, which has also been reversed during the Q2 FY22. Therefore, the segment PBIT of road infrastructure maintenance and toll operation segment was negative at 170 crores during Q2 FY22, vis-a-vis positive of 165 crores for Q1 FY22 and 136 crores for Q2 FY21. So this was the update on the financial side. So now we can open the floor for the question and answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Mohit Kumar from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir, and so thanks for the opportunity. So first question is on the EBITDA margin. The EBITDA margin, of course, you explained, but the correction is too sharp. You know, if we used to do 15, 16%, 17% odd, now we are doing 11%. And as far as the top line is concerned, top line has only grown. So this number is too sharp. Isn't our most of the contracts have price variation clauses which protects us from the increase in steel, bitumen, blah blah blah. Can just reconfirm your do you have any portion of so what is the proportion of fixed price contract in our entire order book? That's the first question, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I would like to just clarify that, like the EPC contracts that we have, so there is a price variation clause under those EPC contracts, but the variation clause takes care of only 50 to 60% of the inflation which is being passed to the contractor during the period. So effectively the entire cost is not getting recovered through the price inflation clause which is there in the EPC contract. And secondly, like while the company is doing EPC projects, company is also doing EPC for the HAM projects which has been undertaken by the company. And as you know, in HAM projects, as per the concession agreement, only 40% of the inflation which is accrued during the construction period is passed on by NHAI, and remaining 60% of the inflation on the balance 60% of the bid project cost that continues to accrue, and that is finally getting added to the final completion cost, and it is realized in form of annuities over the operations period during the operation period. So that is the reason, and see, this has been an extraordinary hike in the material prices. So therefore, the initial provisions of inflation which was factored in the EPC pricing, this kind of price increase has surpassed all those estimates. So that is the reason there has been a pressure on the overall margins of the company, because we are not able to recover the full amount of inflation which the company has suffered because of the steep hike in these material prices. And as I also mentioned, in my opening remark, that the construction period of the projects have significantly increased. If we consider our company, case of our company, where the company used to complete the project in 18 to 20 months, and now the projects are getting extended to 27 to 30 months of completion. So all these factors have resulted into additional fixed cost for the company. So, and also when we were doing the projects in 18 to 20 months, we were also earning early completion bonuses. So that is an important aspect for you to consider. So now there is no early completion bonus available for the company. Though NHAI has given the extension of time, but even if you are completing before time within the extended period, you are not getting bonus from the NHAI. So earlier the EBITDA margins which the company used to demonstrate around 17 to 18%. So that was along with the early completion bonuses also. So these all have been the consolidated reasons why there has been a pressure upon the EBITDA margins of the company.
And so on the mining contract, do we have price variation clause, or it is going to affect our margin effectively? Yeah, margin, adversely.
Mohitji, this mining project also has the price variation clause, exclamation clause in the contract, and it contributed to around 45 to 50% of the project cost in the mining. But what happens when this kind of sudden spike happens in the diesel price? That is again not entirely reimbursed through the price exclamation clause, and you cannot assume and you cannot expect while bidding also this kind of spike. This is also, but the contract has the price exclamation clause.
सर ये लास्टली सर आपके इसमें हम अगर मुझे FY22 FY23 का देखना हो, FY23 24, given the current order book, is this the new normal, the margin which we have around 11 to 13%, or do you think it can go back to 15-16% at least?
So what you have mentioned, so it will go back to the 14 to 15% range in the market. 14 to 15% will be the new normal as compared to 17-18% earlier.
Understood, sir. Thank you and all the best, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Jain from Arihant Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
So, sorry, actually, I just got disconnected. So, can you throw some light on what will be the steady state margin? Because I just joined right now. Apologies if it's repetitive right now. And second thing, are we seeing, because of this demerger, which you are talking about, 8 assets right now, 24 out. So, do you see some kind of revenue guidance going to be come down, which you have given earlier?
So we have mentioned that the steady margin will be in the range of 14 to 15% for the company in the near future. And the answer to your second question, this sale of stake in 8 subsidiary it is not included in the revenue guidance because it was already divested to the Schweb. So revenue guidance remains there.
And the last question is there any, because of this one-off we have taken, also is non-cash, but do you see any impact on the rating agencies side right now?
Abhishek ji, this is not one-off. This is as per the Ind AS. We were holding the 100% in the range of 51 to 100% in the subsidiary. So as per the Ind AS 10 consolidated financial statement, we have to consolidate this subsidiary in our consolidated financial statements. But when we sell the stakes and stake is transferred legally, then this whatever accumulated profit we have consolidated due to the Ind AS has to be removed from the consolidated financial statements.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shravan Shah from Dolat Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, just continuing as you said that 14-15% will be normal now the run rate in terms of the EBITDA margin. So in the second half also we expect a 14-15% margin in the second half of this year.
Yes, Shravan. Yes, we are expecting the same in the range of 14 to 15%.
Okay. And sir, in terms of the if you can once again repeat in terms of the revenue guidance for this year and the order inflow guidance, I think we haven't received anything till now. So what's the guidance for this year and maybe possible on the revenue and inflow for the next year? What's the broad thought on that?
So Shravanji, the revenue guidance which you have given earlier is in the range of the 9,500 to 10,000 crore for the full year. That is the first thing. Second thing, EBITDA margin will be in the range of 14 to 15%. And the third thing you have mentioned the debt cash flow. So what we have told earlier in the last call also, we will be reducing the debt by around 500 crore from the March 21 number.
Okay. And order inflow for this year?
8 to 10,000.
Order inflow will be 8 to 10,000 crore for the rest half.
Okay, 8 to 10,000. And in terms of the broadly next year also, we can see a 10-15% revenue growth.
So it is early. It is too early to tell about the revenue guidance for the next year. You wait for that till Q3. In the Q3 we can
Throw some light
on this.
Okay. Sir, now coming to the HAM part. So if I just look at the numbers, So there, our equity requirement has increased versus the last quarter. What we mentioned, 289 crore. The equity requirement in HAM plus mining has increased. So in HAM, 160 odd crore has increased. Also, we stopped the breakup between 12 old HAM, 5 and the 6 HAM. We combined everything in 23. So why the equity requirement has increased, and if possible, in which HAM it has increased, and is it possible to give the same breakup what we have given in the last presentation 1Q? So that's the first question. And second is in terms of the Cube deal where we were expecting that 5 HAM, that 550 odd crore to be received this year and 100 crore next year. So is it remains the same or any changes in that?
So just to answer the question point by point. So the reason why we have consolidated, because now we have the financial closures in place for all the SPVs. So that is why we have consolidated all the numbers. Earlier, why we had given a bifurcation, because that time certain projects are under financial closure. So that time that was an approximate estimate of the equity, not the full estimate of the equity. So based on the financial closures and the final equity number, which has been updated which has been finally arrived as per the sanction of the project tender, the equity has been updated in all the projects. And further in the 12 projects also, because of the delays, there has been some nominal increase in the equity requirement. So that has also been updated. So that is the reason you see there an increase in an overall equity by around 160 crores. Regarding the Cube deal, so like as you know, we had signed a deal with Cube Highways for the 5 assets. So out of the 5 assets, one asset has already achieved the COD in September 2021, and 2 assets we are expecting the COD in November 2021. So against these 3 assets, we are expecting the consideration now. And during this month, we have already received part consideration from Cube Highways, amounting to around 165 crores. Towards the retirement of the unsecured loan extended by DBL in the 3 SPVs, which are nearing completion. So for the Cube Highways, now the first closing is expected to happen in the early December, where we will be transferring the 49% stake to Cube Highways in these 3 SPVs, which are now getting completed. And the remaining 51% stake will be transferred in the month of March for one SPV and in the month of May for the other 2 SPVs. So likewise, these 3 projects will be completed. Rest of the 2 projects, the CODs are expected somewhere around March 2022. So those closings pertaining to 2 SPVs will be happening at that point of time.
So broadly this year, how much we will be receiving from Cube?
So this year we are expecting around 300 crores inflows from Cube Highways in this financial year. Yeah, and some 40-50 odd crores in the subsequent financial years. Subsequent financial years will be higher. Total usage is around 725 crores. So remaining money will come in the next financial year.
Okay, so 425 crore in the next year. And any update when the remaining 12 HAM where we are seeing 2,500 crore to be received, and 1,000 crore this year and the 1,500 crore next year. So what's the at what stage are the discussion? Anything if you want to update on that?
Yeah, sure. So for the balance 7 assets, as you know, like we had said, we will be monetizing those assets. So the company has reviewed the overall situation, and the management has decided like the future course of monetization should not be done through a bilateral sale basis of the under construction project. So what we have decided is that post completion we should form our own InvIT, and we should do the monetization through the InvIT, because DBL as the EPC company, we also have a strong legacy of doing the O&M activities for these projects. So in the overall framework and with respect to the pricing and also the kind of debt pricing which is available in the market for the completed HAM projects. So in this endeavor, we have been able to refinance one of our completed HAM projects at a very competitive price. So we are trying to optimize the equity valuation of these SPVs. And also there is a benefit of completion cost also coming in these SPVs. So a higher equity valuation can be realized through the InvIT route. So this is the route which the company has decided to adopt for the future monetization of the HAM projects.
Sir, last two questions. First is in terms of the capex. Last time we said that we will not be crossing 100 crore for this year. In cash flow, I can see in the 6 months we have done already 107 odd crores. So, what's the guidance for full year capex?
Shravanji, as earlier also mentioned, there were some were the commitments which were from the last year. Okay, so 30-40 crore was from the last year. That was the commitment. And the second thing, in this some line items, 10-15 crores come through the regular items like small equipments. Okay, that also shown as a capital expenditure. Okay, this office equipments or all this kind of thing. So that is why, but for this year we will not cross the 100 crore, excluding 40 crore from the previous commitments.
Okay, and couple of numbers in terms of the mobilization advance, retention money, unbilled revenue for as on September.
So retention money is around 800 crore, including current and non-current, and mobilization advance is around 996 crore, including current and non-current, and unbilled revenue is around 800 crore.
Sorry, unbilled revenue, how much?
Around 800 crore.
Okay. Thanks. All the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prem Khurana from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question, sir. So to begin with, I essentially want to understand on this DBL Infra transaction that we've done during the quarter. So I think we've transferred 49% stake in 5 SPVs and then 70% in the 6th, and which essentially is also reflecting as a part of your balance sheet because your investment seems to have come down, and even your loans have come down because you would have transferred the investment these to DBL Infra. If you could please share the number that you would have received towards this transfer, and also, if you could help us understand why is it that, even after this receipt from your subsidiary, your standalone net debt has gone down by only around 130 odd crore. I'm assuming, your consideration, because when I look at these reduction in investment and loans, these two in itself work out to be almost around 520 odd crore rupees, and despite that, the reduction in net debt is only 130 in the standalone entity.
Yeah, thank you, Prem. So regarding this DBL Infra Asset, so DBL Infra Asset is a 100% subsidiary, which is 100% subsidiary of Dilip Buildcon Limited. So the idea of this transaction was that, in DBL Infra, as I mentioned, going forward, we are not envisaging the asset sale, which the company used to do. During construction, we used to enter into transaction and undertake the bilateral sale of the asset. So now we are planning to monetize the asset through InvIT route post their completion. So that is the reason we have made a tie-up with CPPIB, that is Canadian Pension Fund, Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, CPPIB, for a aggregate amount of 995 crores to fund the equity requirement of the company, wherein the CPPIB has done due diligence on certain identified assets. And based on their due diligence, they have approved this amount of 995 crores, which can be drawn in several and multiple tranches from CPPIB. And this money is being drawn at DBL Infra level, and DBL Infra is utilizing this money to basically have the equity stake in the identified HAM SPVs, and also the money can be invested in the future HAM SPVs, which is being undertaken by the DBL Group. And also whatever unsecured loan which DBL had extended to the various SPVs, so that is being replaced by the unsecured loan of DBL Infra, which is invested out of the proceeds from the NCDs. And this facility is in the nature of a revolving facility as per our agreement with arrangement with the CPPIB. That going forward we can repay the facility, and again the facility can be made available for the new projects, because HAM is an integrated part of the business activity of the company. And going forward also the company would be undertaking HAM projects, so it needs the equity requirement. And also this facility is for a tenure of 5 years, which comes up with a moratorium of 2 years towards the interest and 3 years for the principal repayment. And we also have option of prepayments for this particular facility. So that is the reason this tie-up at the DBL Infra this structure has been created. And with this, like holding in DBL Infra also gets like the qualification for participating into the new projects going forward. So this will become an investment vehicle for the company going forward. So that is the plan why this transaction has been undertaken. And we are very proud that CPPIB has such a global name. Canadian Pension Plan has partnered with us, and they have expressed and shown their confidence in the company. So that is again a very, we must say that it is a remarkable deal for the company, which the company has undertaken.
Sure. So possible to share how much did we receive for the transfer that we did, as in essentially the stake that you transferred? And when you give us this equity requirement, I think we still seem to be taking into account that these SPVs are owned by us. But given the fact that the stake has been transferred to DBL Infra and you have CPPIB as a partner, so I was under the impression that you would get a part of this money come from from your partner as well. So if you could help us understand how much did we receive for the transfer and why is it not reflecting as a part of reduction in standalone debt, and also how much of incremental infusion that you need to do would be essentially done by the partner and the balance would come to us?
Yes. So it's like the partnership is because CPPIB has subscribed to the NCDs which have been issued by DBL Infra. So it's not a pure equity deal which has happened with CPPIB. So DBL Infra continues to be the 100% subsidiary of DBL. So just it is the split of the ownership between DBL and DBL Infra assets, where 51% in the respective SPVs continues to be owned by DBL, and 49% is being now owned by DBL Infra.
Sure.
So in the last quarter, we had done the first tranche of issuance. So an amount of around 580 odd crores was raised at DBL Infra level, out of which around 500 crores has been paid to DBL towards acquisition of equity stake, 49% equity stake in the identified 6 SPVs, and also taking over the unsecured loan in those 6 SPVs that were initially extended by DBL. So this money has come to DBL. So entire amount has not been like, it does not reflect in the decrease in borrowing because of obvious reasons, like 130 borrowings have come down by 130 crores, but at the same time because of the increase in the moving average price of the materials, so there has been an investment in the working capital by the company, and also company has made fresh equity investment in the SPVs of around 70 to 80 crores. So that is the reason. So I think in the coming quarters, when there is a reversal in the working capital, then that reflection will take place.
Sure. And just one last from my end on this increase in your equity requirement for hybrids, almost 160. What would you attribute this to? Would you attribute this to, the banks going a little conservative in terms of funding, which is why they are seeking you to kind of invest more from your pocket, or is it because of the change in bid project cost? Because I'm assuming, they would have, it has taken us some time to be able to get appointed age, which is where bid project cost would have changed because of inflation, and therefore the funding proportion, even if it was to remain the same, but then obviously, since bid project cost has changed, you would be required to kind of put in little extra from your pocket. And how do you see this increase in equity requirement to kind of come to impact your equity IRRs for these assets? Yeah, that's it from mine. Thank you.
Could you repeat your question once again?
So I was asking, when I look at your equity requirement for hybrids, right, it has gone up by 160 odd crore rupees. So this rise could be because of two reasons. One is, let's say, initially you were able to get funding at, let's say, 25-75 equity debt ratio, and suddenly banks want you to put in 30% and then 70% is coming from banks. And the other reason could be because bid project cost is adjusted for the inflation number, and which is where, let's say, when you bid for the project, it was 100 and it has become 110. And even if it is 25% equity that you need to commit, your equity requirement goes up. So this 160 would be because of the first reason, wherein the banks are asking you to kind of put in more, or is it because of the change in the bid project cost and wherein you're required to kind of put in more now?
It is not because of the change in the bid project cost. So
okay,
that is totally different. It is like it is as I explained to Sharwan also, it is a mixed affair because it is combination, because the new projects, the debt equity ratio, like some projects we were able to do 80-20, now it is 75-25. It is because of that.
Sure.
And secondly, in the erstwhile projects, because of the delay in completion, because of the extended COVID time, so there has been some extra requirement of equity in some of the projects.
Sure. And how would this change our equity IRRs for these projects?
There could be around 100 basis point impact on the equity IRR on an overall basis.
Sure, sir. Thank you, and all the very best for future.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Goyal from Enam Holdings. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Continuing on the equity investments, so this for 12 HAM projects which we are looking to divest, what is the equity investment which will be going in, for which we will realize 2,500 crores?
So, Manish, the investment in these 12 HAM projects will be roughly around 1,650 to 1,675 odd crores. So that is the range of investment in the 12 projects. And against that, once we do the complete stake sale, because out of the 16 projects, 5 projects are being 12 projects, 5 projects are being divested to Cube Highway, for which the expected consideration is around in excess of 700 crores. And for the balance 7 projects, we would be expecting a consideration the total equity investment in the balance 7 projects will be somewhere around 1,200 to 1,250 odd crores, for which the realization could be around 2,500 to 3,000 crores.
So for these 7 HAM projects, you are saying equity investment will be 1,250 crores.
1,250 odd crores.
Sorry?
Yeah, 1,250 odd crores.
Yeah. So both put together, against these 1,675 crores of investment in 12 HAM projects, you are expecting realization of more than 2,500 crores. Okay. And just to clarify on the DBL thing, DBL Infra, so we are transferring 6 HAM SPVs, 49% stake in these 6 HAM SPVs to DBL Infra.
Yes.
And CPPIB has invested 995 crores through NCD in this DBL Infra directly.
The total commitment is for 995 crores. So out of which we have drawn So we have option of drawing down this money in multiple tranches. We drew the first tranche in the last quarter of around 580 crores.
Okay. And by when do you expect to launch the InvIT for these 7 HAM projects?
By the end of this financial year. So that is our target to launch the InvIT, because the assets are now getting completed progressively. So out of the assets available with us, 2 assets have already achieved the COD. So based on that, we will be creating a bouquet for flipping the assets to the InvIT platform.
But ideally, before launching InvIT, we need to complete all the projects, right?
So that is the ideal situation, because then under construction projects can be only done in a unlisted InvIT. So the idea is not to go ahead with the unlisted InvIT as of now.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anupam Gupta from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. A few questions from my side. Firstly, why is there no discussion in the presentation for the CPPIB investment in DBL Infra? There's absolutely nothing in the presentation which talks about it, despite you drawing that amount there. So that is one which is not of a question, but more of a feedback. Secondly, what is the interest rate which you will be paying on this NCD?
See, this DBL Infra transaction, this was already in the public domain, because this was a listed issuance done by the DBL Infra. So that is the reason it was not covered specifically in the presentation. And secondly, with respect to the tenor and the interest rate, so initially, as I mentioned, there is a 2-year moratorium for this particular facility, and the cash coupon is 9% payable after 2 years. And overall basis, around 12.5% is the interest rate on a PAPM basis, which is payable to the investor.
Okay. And so now that your equity investment which you are doing effectively, I'm assuming CPPIB will not convert into equity stake at all, right? This will continue to remain as an NCD for 5 years.
Yeah, it is going to be it is going to remain as the NCD, but we have an option of prepayment also for these NCDs.
Right.
After 12 months.
Right. So from your reported numbers, it will be very tough to actually make out the actual debt on the books, because if ideally the debt on the overall book should be looked at your standalone debt plus the debt which is there in DBL Infra as an NCD. So that's your real debt actually to look at. Which so I would really prefer if you can disclose that in your presentations every quarter, because that would give a better picture of the overall system.
Yes.
Yeah. And secondly, in terms of your revenue guidance and your margins, if I see what you're saying for the second half, you are effectively saying there will be no YOY growth in revenues for the second half. And similarly on the margins which you have again lowered to 14 to 15%, basically assumes that the overall execution continues to remain slow, which should ideally be not the case in the second half, given that everything has normalized for most other companies. So I'm not able to understand why this revenue and margin guidance has been cut, going by your explanation. So if you can explain that a bit better.
So Anupamji, revenue guidance which you have given in the last quarter, it was in the range of 9,500 to 10,000 crores. So we are keeping that guidance. First thing. Right. Second thing, the margin guidance was also given in the range of 14 to 15% in the last quarter. So there is no cut in the revenue guidance as well as the margin guidance as compared to the previous quarter.
But let's say, assuming things are normal in the second half in terms of execution, why should margins be lower?
So margin, because this is impacted by the extended period of the COVID, where we are incurring the fixed overhead. We have mentioned the various reasons. So I'm just now highlighting the reasons. So first thing is the non-receipt of the early completion bonus, because now we will be completing on the time during the extended period of time. The project which we have won in the 2018, now it is completed during the extended period. So we are incurring the additional fixed overhead. Then there is a price increase which is impacting our margin. So these three put together, and the other two things are also mentioned, the coal project fuel, the price escalation is 100% passed through to us, because this is the formula. So this is why the margin guidance earlier also it was given in the 14 to 15% range, and the same has been continued for the rest of the half year.
Okay. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. So my first question is on inventory. So again, the inventory has gone up in this quarter. So as you highlighted earlier in the call that we are not receiving any bonuses from NHAI. Also, the execution cycle is getting extended. Why is this inventory not coming down? Earlier, we used to accelerated inventory for the execution purpose to get bonuses. But I'm still failing to understand why the inventory is not reducing here, sir.
Parikshitji, when the execution will pick up, you will see in the Q3 the inventory will go down, because there is another impact is the actually moving average price of the inventory is increasing up. Even though quantity is not increasing, due to the price up, there is an increase in the inventory value. But you will see that surely, as earlier also we have mentioned that the reversal in the working capital will happen during the Q3 and Q4, and we keep the same thing. This will happen in Q3 and Q4.
Okay. So the second question, you said that by year-end you will try to have a unlisted InvIT in place, private unlisted InvIT in place. So that means that a lot of work has already gone into identifying a partner or investor, because we hardly have 3 to 4 months left. So at what stage of evolution we are there in an unlisted InvIT? Have we already analyzed some investor, signed the term sheet, or we are very close to that? If you can give some sense on the InvIT.
First of all, I would like to clarify. See, this it's not private unlisted; it will be private listed InvIT that we are in. And secondly, we are already now in touch with the investors, and we are trying to firm up the commercials and the term sheet with the investors. So that enough work has been done towards that. And in fact, as I mentioned, like CPPIB has also done due diligence on 10 of our assets. So that also gives a larger comfort to the investor community also, while such a good brand name has partnered with us. So with all that, I think we are quite hopeful that we should be able to catch up the timelines which we have mentioned.
So my question was, have we finalized or singled out an investor already? Like we have finalized that who's going to come in. So I'm not asking you to give names, but have we already proceeded, entered into exclusivity with the investor, and now only commercials are left to be decided?
It is still under discussion, Parikshit. So
with multiple investors.
Yeah. Because the deal size is.
So it could be multiple investors who can come in your InvIT, right? It's not that single investor will be.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So just last question, sir, on this slide on the divestment of road assets on 24. So you have mentioned 1,500 in 23 and 1,000 crores in 22. So, but you did in the call mention that there is some slippage from the Cube into the next year. So how is there any revision in the numbers now on this inflow for 1,000 and 1,500 for FY 22-23?
See the overall number basis, so you have to see the numbers along with the CPPIB deal. So like last quarter, we were also looking for a bilateral divestment, but now the strategy is that we will be divesting only through the InvIT route. So that is the reason we have now made the interim arrangement by tying up 995 odd crores with CPPIB. So if you club both the deals, Cube deal as well as the CPPIB deal, then the 1,000 crores number, which has been anticipated for this particular financial year, that would be in place. And the subsequent financial year, we'll have the completion of all the balance 7 HAM projects which have not been divested, for which no form agreement or definitive agreements have been signed. So those will be divested through the InvIT platform, and that realization will come from the balance 7 assets.
Okay, and this 2,500 crores of divestment consideration is on an equity base of 1,675, right, including the Cube 5 assets?
Yes, correct.
Okay, because I thought the CPPIB money will qualify as an NCD or a debt, so I don't think it exactly resembles the divestment consideration because that is a liability. So I was more coming that the 1,000 crores I assume would be pure equity money, right? It's 2,500 crores.
So that's right. So, but that's what I said, because ultimately the equity money is required by the company to meet the upcoming equity requirement.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that is the reason we have done this.
Okay, so you're just replacing it. You're trying to explain it more like that is being a source of fund and utilization of funds. Okay, got it. Okay, sir. That's all from my side and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jiten Rushi from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Thanks for taking my question. So coming back to the CPPIB deal, so as you said, we have taken 580 crores and probably additionally we will get 300 crores from Cube Highways. But once we get the money from Cube Highways by end of next year, so are we looking to repay the debt we have drawn down from CPPIB, or we will still draw the full 995 crore next year by the end of this year or early next year, first half?
Jitenji, like as you know, the last financial year we had backed 11 new HAM projects, so we have a equity pipeline for that. So the considerations would be ideally met for meeting the equity commitment in the upcoming projects, and similarly the balance amount also will be drawn progressively from the CPPIB. And ultimately this will be retired out of the stake sale of the balance 7 assets through the InvIT route.
So basically for 51% DBL will invest and 49% DBL Infra will draw down from CPPIB for the...
Not necessarily. It is, we have the flexibility. We can invest more than 49% also in the new projects. So it's not restricted to 49% specifically in a particular project. So we can draw down and invest in the new projects to the extent which is to our convenience basically.
But shareholding will remain 51-49 and DBL will have 100% stake in the DBL.
Not necessarily. As per the lending terms, we are not. There is no stipulation that DBL has to maintain 51. both DBL along with its associate, which is DBL Infra, we can jointly hold the entire shareholding in the SPVs.
So this approval has been taken from NHAI?
NHAI approval is not required because concession agreement ab initio permits the holding of investment of equity by the original bidder along with its associates.
Okay, got it. And sir, on the, as you said, first 2 years we have the moratorium period, so you'll be not paying interest. And probably in last 3 years, you'll be paying interest at the rate of 9%. Or you said some 12%. So can you just clarify? I missed out on that, sir.
Yeah, so after 2 years, there is a element of cash coupon, which is payable at the rate of 9%. And finally, the IRR of the investor would be 12.5% on a PAPM basis, so which is compensated by way of the redemption premium at the end of the tenure.
Okay, redemption premium. Okay. So basically, principal this money which you have raised, we can repay after 1 year. That is the option you have, right? Flexibility you have.
Part of the money can be repaid after 1 year.
And sir, on the questions, like what is the debt repayment schedule for this year, FY 22, 20 and 24 at the standalone level, sir?
So like our current maturities for the till September 22 for next year is around 750 odd crores. So typically there will be a repayment of 750 odd crores during the next 12 months period.
And that similar 100 we can expect?
Yes. Definitely.
And sir, And sir, on the operating cash flow side, so what would be the OCF at the standalone level and console, if we can guide for this year and next year, because the working capital seems stretched. So whether we can see a positive operating cash flow this year, next year, or how are we, looking at it, sir?
So for the rest of the year, as you mentioned, 14 to 50% will be the EBITDA margin. So you can plot that in your model. So and there will be releasing the working capital also. It is somewhere 127 days, so it will reach to the around 100 days. So this will be releasing the working capital, so there will be positive cash flow by end of the financial year.
For subsidiaries, it would be difficult to give the OCF because it is still not operational, what I understand, right, sir?
We are not caring for the operating cash flow, as we always tell that it is for the divestment. So
got it.
We don't take the OCF for the subsidiary.
And sir, on the capex front, as you said, only 100 crore this year, but probably now many of the other projects are getting appointed at the end of CY, December or March. So what kind of capex we see next year? Because even the order inflow should go up in second half. So can you guide on the FY 23 and 24 capex?
If we will be winning the 8 to 10,000 crore in the rest half, so there will not be any additional capex because there are the projects which are getting completed. So this will be deployed to the new projects from the old projects, except if we get some special kinds of projects like we got earlier, like Badbut and Special Bridge, Sahibganj. So where we can require some capex, but right now this is not the plan.
So broadly 40-50 crore recurring maintenance capex and some additional if at all.
Yeah. Yes.
And so one last question, in the order backlog, now what is the status of all the projects? All are moving projects, or there are still any stuck or non-moving projects or slow-moving projects? Can you just highlight on that, sir?
All are the moving projects. There is nothing to mention. That is only the appointed dates are pending for the four of the projects.
Yeah, that I understand. So, that's it from my side. Thank you, and sir, all the best.
Thank you, Jitin.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tina Vermani from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. My question is just a clarification on this DBL Infra SPV, the SPVs which are transferred to DBL Infra. Is it which SPVs are these? Are these the ones which are part of those 12 HAM projects which are to be divested, or these are the ones which are recently awarded or will be getting awarded in future? Basically, the funding which is coming in the form of NCDs from CPBIB, is it going to be used for the newer projects or for the existing portfolio of 12 HAM projects which were initially part of the company?
So, Tina, just to clarify this, so the funding is on the basis of equity investment done by the company in 10 underlying SPVs, out of which 6 SPVs are out of the 12 SPVs, old 12 SPVs, and 4 SPVs are out of the 11 SPVs for which we received the appointed date in March 2021. So against this, on the basis of the equity investment already done by DBL, the line of credit has been sanctioned by CPPIB, but the money can be invested into the new projects also apart from these 10 SPVs. So that flexibility we have. One is
basically the overall portfolio of HAM projects of DBL, except those 5 projects which are divested to Cube.
Correct.
Okay. And why was basically I just want to understand why was this a transaction done? Why? I mean, see, it could also have happened by divesting a stake to CPPIB and monetizing these assets in that way. So why this kind of structure is being adopted?
So there are 2 reasons to it. One is that, as I clarified during my earlier part of discussions also, that we have decided to set up our own InvIT. Okay. So why we are setting up our own InvIT? So that is the reason for the interim. The company had also backed projects. So there was an interim requirement to meet the equity for these projects. So rather than selling the projects, we decided to hold the projects in our balance sheet. And because there has been a deterioration in terms of the reduction in the bank rates, so there has been an impact upon the valuation of the assets. So that is the reason it was not advisable that we do the divestment of the assets at this point of time. So that is the reason now the company has selected and opted for the InvIT route for the divestment at the appropriate time. So we had undertaken this transaction, and also with this transaction, there is a brand name coming with the company, that is the CPPIB, and with their diligence, I think the confidence of the investors also gets a boost.
Okay, got it, sir. And my another question is regarding your interest expense, which has continued to remain high also despite a marginal reduction in the debt. So will that continue to remain high, because you mentioned that your debt will basically come down from the March 21 number by maybe 3rd or the 4th quarter. So this financial year we may not see a decline in the interest expense for DBL. It may start coming down from next year.
No, this will come down, because there are quarters. Because this quarter there is a small increase because of some of the projects which had commenced, because during the early part of the construction there is no interest which is billed by the authority on the mobilization advance, because that comes along with the deduction. So some interest on the mobilization advances have come featured during this particular quarter. But going forward, this is going to come down with the repayment of the debts, and also there has been a reduction on the working capital side by our lead lender, interest rate by around 100 basis points on our working capital facility. So that would also reflect in a phased manner once we have the approval from all the lenders in place. So maybe in a quarter-to-quarter basis, you will see a reduction in the overall finance cost.
Okay. And my last question is regarding the margin side also, which you have already clarified on this 14-15% kind of number. Given the fact that this second quarter was quite adversely impacted by lower revenue recognition and all the other reasons, do we see a further improvement in the coming quarters to get to the band of 14-15% for the full year of FY22? Because effectively that means that in the 3rd and the 4th quarter you will have much higher margins as compared to what you did in 1H.
Tina, we have told that the rest of the half H2, this will be the margin will be the 14 to 15%, not for the entire year. So whatever has been built up, so there will not be higher margin in the second half. This will be in the range of 14 to 15%.
Okay. And going forward also, given if we assume that the commodity prices remain at similar levels, you would have 14-15% margins.
Yeah, sure. Yes, it will be 14 to 15%.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipesh Agarwal from UTI AMC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. My first question is again continuation to previous participants on the margin. So with the commodity price stabilizing, say in the next 1 or 2 years, why do you think the margin should still remain at 14 to 15%? Because in the new will be bidding at the current commodity prices. So why it should still impact you 2 years down the line?
Can you just repeat the question? We could not get your.
So my question is, in the new projects, you will be bidding at the current commodity prices. So with the existing projects getting commercialized in next 1 or 2 years, why do you think that the margin will be 14-15% even for a foreseeable future? Do you think that there is a room to go back to the 16% kind of a range?
Yeah, we can go back to the 16% range, but getting the numbers after 2 years is very difficult. So right now, that is why we are saying for the next 1 to 2 years, it will be in the range of 14 to 15%. And actually,
Okay. And the second question is, so you have been guiding for cutting down your inventory days over a longer term, as the NHAI early completion bonuses are now very rare. So can you help us with the quantifiable timelines? By when do you think the inventory days can reduce by, say, a meaningful extent?
So what we have told that by the end of this financial year, we will cut down to the inventory days to around 100 days. Total working capital, that debtors plus inventory minus creditors. It is difficult to put numbers to one individual component of the working capital, but we will cut down to the 100 days for all these three components put together.
Okay. And lastly, on the CPPIB transaction, you mentioned there is a redemption premium. So is this a firm commitment from the Dilip side to the investor, or it is payable only if the assets fetch a higher value on their sale?
No, it's a firm commitment from Dilip.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Jiten Rushi for closing comments. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Faizan. We thank everyone for participating in the call. We thank the management for giving us this opportunity. Sir, any closing remarks from your side? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenji. This is Rohan side. We thank all the participants for coming here on a Saturday and asking all the questions. In case some people still have certain questions and doubts about the transaction or any other part of quarter or future outlook, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. And just like to, while it will be late, but wishing all the participants and the family a happy Diwali and a happy New Year. And we look forward to speaking to you and listening from you on the next quarter call. That will be all from our side on behalf of the whole DBL family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Axis Capital Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.